And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about day number 5 of training camp for the Washington Commanders. We're going to be talking about the key standouts from today, along with the insights that we got from today's practice. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about a lot of everything here in day number 5 of training camp for the Washington Commanders. And so if you have not heard, this was the first day of pads for the Washington Commanders. And so a lot of excitement out there to see this practice. And so let's go ahead and let's first start with what Dan Quinn had to say before practice started here. And so just paraphrasing some of the key things that he talked about. And so number one, talking about what he wanted to work on here in practice. And so he talks about just the red zone work and how he wanted to go ahead and incorporate that today. And then next, talking about what makes it unique to coach for the Washington Commanders. And so he was talking about the fan base and just really, the people around the organization and how that just makes it a unique situation as a coach. And so that was great to see. Next, talking about the pads here. And so he says, look, this is the essence of the game, which is putting on the pads. But he's saying that players and coaches have a responsibility to teach it the right way. And so that was one of the key insights that he was talking about here with the pads and everything else. And so next, talking about when it comes down to putting on the pads, how things change a little bit. And so he talked about how the technique changes now. So instead of using, more of the hands, now you're using more of your shoulders, things like that, to actually go up there and make the contact. And so a little bit more different from just going out there and working with the shells, or just going ahead and just working with just the jerseys on in training camp. And so next, he's asked about Deebo Samuel. And he was talking about how he's just learning about just the different ways in which they can utilize Deebo Samuel. Again, just paraphrasing this, but really putting him in different spots, the energy that he brings to the group. And then he talks about Deebo and his finishing mentality. So talking about how he finishes plays and things like that. And so definitely can understand where Coach Quinn is coming from, from that, because I've seen there's been several plays where just watching him from afar with the 49ers that, man, this guy certainly knows how to finish plays out there. And so next, talking about the wide receiver room. And so he's asked about that, and he says that he likes the wide receiver room. He's talking about Jalen Lane and saying that he's kind of jumped out there early. And so that's a good sign as a rookie, catching, the eye of your head coach here. And then next, he's talking about just how it's a deep crew with the wide receiver room. And so I do think that just this team has a very versatile group, and they have a lot of ways in which they can attack you from the wide receiver core. And so I just can't wait to see what it's all going to look like, especially once the Washington Commanders do get 17 out there, which is Terry McLaurin. And so we'll be talking about that in a moment. And so next, talking about, again, just the line to scrimmage and talking about the running game and things like that. And so, he was talking about how, again, this is going to be important with now that you're putting on the pads and stuff like that. So he was talking about kickoff and kickoff return was something that they were going to work on today in the practice. And then speaking of the running game, talking about run after contact, making people miss. That's kind of what he was looking for from the evaluation process today. And so just some of the insights here from what he was talking about there. And then he does mention a couple players. And so starting with Trey Amos, one of the things that he talks about with him is that he's showing patience. And so not really showing just, how he's going to anticipate a release from a wide receiver or whatnot. And so thought that was very good insight, especially for a rookie corner, being able to have that type of patience. You're definitely going to need that. Next, some of the players to watch. And so he's talking about Jordan McGee and him taking the next step. Once again, he talks about Tyree Jackson as well. And then lastly, he's asked about Deron Payne and just talking about how fun it is coaching him up and how focused he has been. And so I'm really anticipating that Deron Payne is going to have a very good year because we continue to keep hearing the type of energy that he's bringing to the building. And I really do think that with this unit that he has up front alongside of him, we might see something special from Deron Payne. And so definitely looking forward to seeing what he's going to do this season. And so next, that brings me to the update here with Terry McLaurin. And so with Terry McLaurin, he says that at this point in time that he is currently rehabbing here. And so it looks like that he does a combination of things, whether it's strength, and then it's a little bit of conditioning, and that he's doing the film, doing cardio. He's also doing the watching the walkthroughs and things like that, but there's really no timeline. And so that is the update with Terry McLaurin. He also did come out after practice, and I believe he was signing autographs and things like that from one of the updates I saw. I think he was out there with his agent, I think, there after practice. And so that's just one of the things he was doing, I guess, after practice there. And so next, wanted to go ahead and jump into what Trey Amos had to say. And so he had a little presser here after practice. And so very short, but solid interview here. So Trey Amos, some of the things he's talking about, again, just paraphrasing this, is that he starts by saying that he wants to get the understanding of defense, or of the defense, excuse me, and knowing the players, the coaches, and really gaining the respect on and off the field. And so love that mentality and the focus that Trey Amos comes in with. And then, talking about his techniques and things like that, and just really wanting to come in and do his job and just be accountable for that. So I love hearing that from Trey Amos, the ownership that he has as a rookie. I can just tell you, man, just in listening to him, he does not sound like a rookie, man. This guy sounds like he has been in the league for quite some time. So very excited to see what he's going to do. And then next, just talking about his routine. So coming in early, getting a routine, trusting the coaching and the technique. He did mention Marshawn Lattimore and how he's given him some tips there and some insights. And so Trey Amos sounding like he's off to a great start. Next, Deebo Samuel came up. He talked a little bit. And so with Deebo Samuel, he was just talking about coming in, getting better each day out. And so that's one of the things that he wants to do. And then when he was talking about the rookies that were wide receivers, he feels like that they are ahead of the game. And so that kind of goes into what Dan Quinn was talking about earlier with that Jalen Lane has kind of stood out. And so, when you hear Deebo Samuel saying that the rookies are ahead of the game, that's something that's great to hear. Next, he's mentioning Cliff Kingsbury, and as far as kind of going out there and putting him in the right spot. And so talking about that. And then he talked a little bit more about his rapport with Jaden Daniels and how they sometimes go out after practice and get some extra reps there. So that was good to see. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into just kind of the standouts and key moments here from practice. And so once again, you can go over to Commander's Wire if you want to see some of these clips and images and things like that. And so let's start with Michael Gallup. And so Michael Gallup got a chance to see some of the clips there where he's working on different types of passes. And so he was working on low passes. He's working on catching some high points and things like that. So definitely showing off the hands on the sideline. So that was good to see there. Next thing that I thought that was a standout here was just that you saw there was a drill in which I guess they were working on getting – I want to say leverage in the pass blocking game. So being able to go out there and actually move people out of the way and then get to the second level. So it's like a drill where it would start off where they come out and it's almost like a double team. And then you want to get to that next level as a lineman. And so looking at some of that leverage and just kind of opening up holes and things like that. So I thought that was a pretty cool drill that you see there. It's just only for a couple seconds. Next, just getting a chance to see just how electric it was out there. I mean, I think that you get a chance to see just how many fans were out there. You see Jaden Daniels going out there and signing autographs and stuff. I just talked about Terry McLaurin and his situation and how he was out there signing autographs. And then there's an image of him with his agent there. And so once again, you can check that out on Commander's Wire. And then, lastly, I just think overall for the team, it just seemed like that it was a good day on both sides of the ball. I don't think that it was necessarily one side dominated the other, but it just sounds like it was just a great day on both sides of the ball for the Commanders. And so solid day in day number 5 of pads out there. And so we'll see what happens as time goes along. And so remember, you only get so many padded practices in training camp and then also throughout the year here. So definitely, these guys are going to pace along. And so there were some players that did rest today as well. So just to note that out there. But again, solid practice. I think that there was just wins on both sides of the ball. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about what Dan Quinn had to say, Trey Amos, Deebo Samuel, and things like that. What are you most excited to see here this upcoming season? Again, hearing some high praise for the rookie wide receiver here, because when you hear Deebo Samuel say that the rookies are ahead of the curve as far as wide receivers are concerned, and then you hear Dan Quinn talking about Jalen Lane as well, sounds like that he definitely could be a pretty solid contributor here in year 1, but we'll see what happens come preseason and everything else. But you guys let me know in the comments what you're thinking, and as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.